Have you ever wondered what would happen if NBA superstars, already pocketing mind-blowing salaries, started acting like they owned the league? We're seeing a wave of players demanding trades, loafing through games, and ignoring the fans who fund their lavish lifestyles. Today, we're breaking down how this dangerous culture of entitlement threatens to shatter the NBA's competitive spirit. Open any sports news feed, and you'll find stories about star players demanding trades, refusing to honor contracts, and pulling public stunts that derail locker rooms. It's no longer shocking to see a franchise superstar suddenly decide he wants out, even if he just signed a massive extension a season ago. Fans are calling it the diva era, where the biggest names expect special privileges just for showing up. Sure, athletes have every right to advocate for their interests, but it's different when you're locked into a deal worth hundreds of millions. Huge contracts, ironically, can fuel overconfidence. Once a player inks a supermax, he often perceives himself as indispensable, regardless of how his behavior affects team morale. From skipping film sessions to half-hearted efforts during practices, we've seen it all. Fans are left shaking their heads, especially considering legends like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, who played through injuries and never used lavish paychecks as reasons to demand constant accommodation. The landscape has shifted so dramatically that former players express disbelief at how easily today's stars can orchestrate exits. In some cases, these players want to manage their careers with precision, seeking new rosters or bigger markets. Yet it's also about how they handle it publicly. Time and again, we see cryptic social media posts or standoffish press conferences that elevate drama. This sense of entitlement extends to the court too, where some might refuse to play the second night of a back-to-back, leaving ticket-buying fans disappointed. Data-driven rest is understandable, but the optics matter. The tension between a player's right to preserve health and the fans' expectation of consistent effort fuels a broader debate. Isn't showing up and playing the hard part of the job description, especially when you're among the league's elite earners? We're standing at a tipping point where the culture of entitlement could overshadow the competition that once made the NBA must-watch television. As the stakes rise, so does the frustration among those who love the game. NBA salaries have exploded to astronomical levels. The typical NBA player makes about $10 million a year, while the average American earns roughly $60,000. That's a difference of more than 160 times, making it hard for the public to relate when stars complain about their situation. Meanwhile, every ticket sold, every jersey purchased, and every subscription service helps fund these massive contracts. Owners face a tough reality. On one hand, they want to attract generational talents capable of transforming a franchise overnight. On the other, offering a supermax contract can lock a team into a precarious situation if the player becomes complacent or injury-prone. The arms race for championship rosters compels teams to spend big, but the risk often outweighs the reward. Once guaranteed money flows in, motivation can wane, leaving organizations stuck paying for a name rather than results. We've also seen an endless cycle of record-breaking deals. Each new superstar wants to top the last highest-paid player, normalizing salaries that once seemed unimaginable. When a single player makes $50 million in a season, fans inevitably wonder if the product on the court justifies such a jaw-dropping figure. After all, when superstars sit out for rest, it's the die-hard supporters who feel shortchanged. As these contracts balloon, questions arise about whether guaranteed money fosters complacency. If a star is secure financially, what drives him to hustle on defense, dive for loose balls, or play through nagging injuries? At least some historically dominant players found that hunger from needing to prove themselves. Today, comfort sets in quickly once the ink dries. One of the clearest signs of this shifting landscape is the All-Star game. Once a highlight showcasing the league's most dedicated players, it's now a low-effort exhibition that often resembles a weekend pickup run. Fans pay premium prices, sponsors shell out fortunes, and networks broadcast globally, expecting intense competition. Instead, they're treated to half-hearted defense, endless three-point chucking, and no real intensity. This shift in mindset undermines the tradition that celebrates the best of basketball. But it's not just the All-Star event. Load management has become a buzzword, with superstars strategically skipping regular season games to preserve their health for the playoffs. While the logic is grounded in data that suggests reducing wear and tear can prolong careers, the downside is glaring. The day-to-day product loses its luster. A marquee Friday night showdown can quickly become irrelevant if the biggest names are out for rest. Fans who saved up for tickets might be disappointed to see a bench-heavy lineup. Coaches and teammates also bear the brunt. Rotations become unpredictable, and younger players are thrust into roles they may not be ready for. On the flip side, they often relish the opportunity to prove themselves, but the inconsistent involvement of star players can stunt overall chemistry. Eventually, resentment can brew if a franchise centerpiece is perceived as picking and choosing when to perform. Historically, NBA champions built their legacies on grinding through the regular season to secure home court advantage, then elevating their game in the playoffs. That culture is now diluted by an approach that views the 82-game marathon as a formality. Some argue it's just a smart strategy, but the optics are terrible. Even the commissioner's office has noticed, enforcing rules that limit how many superstars can sit simultaneously. Yet the underlying attitude remains. As load management and lackluster all-star performances become the norm, the competitive fire that once fueled the NBA dims. When games feel optional, it's not only the fans who lose out, but the spirit of basketball itself suffers. Fans are the lifeblood of any sports league, and the NBA is no exception. They buy tickets and jerseys, all in the hopes of seeing their favorite players compete at a high level. Yet more and more, supporters feel betrayed by last-minute absences and half-hearted efforts. Imagine flying to another state just to watch a superstar, only to find he's been scratched for load management or doesn't feel like playing. That disappointment lingers, chipping away at fan loyalty. This frustration spills onto social media, where viral clips show lackluster defensive plays or stars seemingly uninterested on the bench. Comment sections become battlegrounds, with some fans defending players' rights to protect their bodies, while others argue the paying customer deserves full effort. The divide is especially sharp among older viewers who remember an era when top athletes rarely missed games unless they were injured. Younger fans, meanwhile, grow up in a culture where resting during the season is just normal. As trust erodes, the league's image suffers. People started questioning whether the NBA values entertainment and competition as much as it values marketing and merchandise sales. If ticket prices keep climbing while on-court intensity falls, the public's enthusiasm can wane. We've already seen local TV ratings dip in certain markets when their marquee player is routinely absent from home games. Moreover, families save for months to attend a single game, making it a special event. When they arrive to discover the headliner is out due to soreness, it leaves a sour taste. Repeat that experience often enough, and fans might opt to spend their money elsewhere, perhaps on experiences that guarantee full participation. Some players do empathize. They acknowledge the sacrifices fans make and do their best to suit up whenever possible. But that sentiment isn't universal. The absence of consistent, wholehearted dedication from the league's top performers fosters a cynical audience. A cynical audience is less inclined to cheer, less likely to tune in, and more prone to walking away entirely.
Do you think load management is a major problem for the NBA?
Load management wasn't always a staple strategy. It emerged from sports science research suggesting that monitoring minutes and reducing stress could lengthen careers. Teams like the San Antonio Spurs were early adopters, resting veteran stars to keep them fresh for the postseason. Over time, other franchises followed suit, turning sporadic rest days into a league-wide phenomenon. Today, it's not uncommon to see multiple stars from the same squad sitting out on a nationally televised game, disappointing both viewers and sponsors. Certain awards. Additionally, they've tried scheduling fewer back-to-backs and spacing out matchups. However, the underlying issue persists. If a star feels banged up, teams err on the side of caution, effectively prioritizing playoff runs over regular season excitement. From a strategic standpoint, it's logical. Why risk a critical asset in a Tuesday night game against a non-contender if it might jeopardize a championship chase? This perspective, though, clashes with the league's historical emphasis on each game counting toward a playoff berth. It also frustrates fans who can't fathom why a healthy star is benched unless necessary. Some blame the league's long schedule, arguing that 82 games is an outdated model. They claim fewer contests would reduce the need for rest, ramping up competitiveness. Others counter that fewer games mean less revenue, ultimately cutting into both player salaries and team budgets. The NBA's economic machine runs on live events, and a shorter calendar could undermine that engine. Still, there's a sense that load management has gone too far. A generation of fans may be growing up believing it's normal for superstars to pick and choose their appearances. The risk is that this mindset dilutes the significance of the regular season, making it feel more like a preamble than a competition. For a league built on nightly drama, that shift could be devastating in the long run. One radical idea gaining traction is the introduction of non-guaranteed contracts, similar to the NFL model. Under such a system, only a portion of an NBA player's salary would be guaranteed, with the rest tied to performance benchmarks, availability, and team success. Advocates argue this would incentivize players to stay on the court and remain engaged. Miss too many games due to dubious reasons, and your paycheck takes a hit. It sounds tough, but fans and even some executives believe it would restore competitiveness. Critics, however, warn of potential pitfalls. In a contact sport, legitimate injuries are inevitable. Players might rush back prematurely, jeopardizing long-term health. There's also the question of fairness. Should a superstar be punished financially if a team decides to rest him for strategic reasons? It's a complicated scenario that would require nuanced language in the collective bargaining agreement. Another avenue is reducing the regular season from 82 games to, say, 72. That would theoretically allow more rest days without players skipping contests outright. Fewer games could also boost the importance of each matchup, reigniting intensity. Yet owners would likely push back, fearing a revenue decrease. Fewer home dates mean lost ticket sales, concessions, and local broadcast income. Meanwhile, some propose targeted penalties for load management. For instance, if a healthy superstar sits a nationally televised game, the team could face a hefty fine or lose certain draft benefits. Others suggest partial ticket refunds for fans who bought seats expecting specific players to appear. While these ideas might deter unnecessary rest days, they also raise logistical and legal challenges. Whatever the route, reform won't come easy. The Players Association will fight tooth and nail to preserve guaranteed money and protect athletes from undue financial risk. Owners will seek solutions that maintain or grow profit margins. But without substantive changes, the gap between entitled stars and disgruntled fans could widen, putting the NBA's long-term appeal in jeopardy. Striking a balance that pleases all parties remains the league's challenge. Let's start with Jimmy Butler's evolving saga in Miami. Once celebrated for his work ethic, he helped the Heat reach finals appearances and earned an extension, but as he approached his mid-30s, he wanted yet another lucrative deal extending into his late 30s. The franchise hesitated, citing concerns about mileage and durability. Butler reportedly responded by missing flights, hinting at trade requests, and walking out of practice. Fans found that a leader revered for hustle would stir drama the moment he didn't get what he wanted. Then there's Paul George, who once positioned himself as a future face of the league. Injuries and inconsistent performances marked his tenure with the Clippers, yet he still secured paydays. By the time he landed in Philadelphia, many questioned if investing in a star past his prime was wise. Early returns haven't been promising. He's already missed time, and the Sixers aren't playoff bound. Supporters feel they're paying top dollar for a name rather than a transformative talent. Not all stories are bleak, though. Consider a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo. Despite earning a supermax contract, he remains competitive, determined to lead the Bucks every night he's healthy. Giannis hails from a humble background, and it shows in his refusal to coast. While no athlete is above criticism, he represents a counterpoint, a superstar still hungry for every win, paycheck or not. These contrasting case studies illustrate the league's fragmentation. On one end, you have mercurial stars who seem to treat guaranteed contracts like blank checks. On the other, a handful of players still carry an old-school mindset, striving to honor their deals and their fans. The result is a patchwork of experiences for viewers, who never know if they'll witness a career-defining performance or a star sulking on the bench. The NBA's brand thrives on star power, but this entitlement wave could undermine that appeal. If fans grow tired of half-hearted efforts and constant drama, they might divert their attention to other sports or forms of entertainment. In today's digital age, competition for eyeballs is fierce. Younger generations have countless options for content, and an inconsistent basketball product risks losing them. The league's global expansion might keep revenues growing short-term, but long-term loyalty hangs in the balance. Internationally, events like the FIBA World Cup or the Olympics can eclipse the NBA when players pour their hearts out for national pride. Casual observers might wonder why certain stars go full throttle for their country but seem disinterested during an NBA regular season stretch. That discrepancy creates skepticism. Is the league's marathon format the issue, or is it the guaranteed money? Meanwhile, new experiments like the in-season tournament aim to spice up the calendar. Yet, if star players treat it as a nuisance, no format change will salvage the competition. The NBA must confront the possibility that players might only care when the stakes feel meaningful, such as late-round playoff matchups. As a result, mid-season games risk becoming mere formalities, overshadowed by trade rumors and social media antics. If this dynamic persists, owners might reevaluate how they structure contracts and engage with the players' union. Multi-year guaranteed deals carry staggering risk, and empty arenas or declining TV ratings could force a shift in bargaining positions. Player empowerment is generally viewed positively, but unchecked leverage could morph into destructive entitlement. On the flip side, a cultural renewal might occur if younger stars decide to restore credibility. They might see the backlash against load management and aimless trade demands, choosing a path that reaffirms dedication. If that happens, we could witness a new golden age of basketball that marries player freedom with fan satisfaction. But if complacency reigns, the NBA might face a future where highlight reels can't mask an underlying lack of competitive fire. Superstar talent might be the NBA's biggest draw, but when players treat the league as their playground, everyone loses. If these entitlement issues remain unchecked, fans could abandon the sport, networks might pivot resources elsewhere, and the game's legacy could suffer irreparable harm. It's a wake-up call. Either enforce meaningful reforms or risk watching the NBA's future slip away. Let us know in the comments what you think of these superstar antics. And don't forget to visit Hoop Hype for basketball gear to showcase your passion for the game. We'll see you in the next video shown on screen.